Good morning, everyone. It's nice to see you here today. My name is Ben Borkel. I'm one of the school improvement consultants here at Kent ISD. And for the last year and a half or so, I've also been on the state team that has revised the school and district improvement frameworks. I'm here to bring you good news today to make your life a little easier, which unfortunately we can't always do that, but today is one of those days. So hopefully you'll agree with me by the time you leave today that you feel that same way. Our goal today is to do a couple of things. First of all, to familiarize you with the new frameworks and to talk about, so how have they changed from the old frameworks, the IDS 40 and 90, and how will we go about using those now as part of the continuous school improvement process. The other thing that we're hoping to do is to familiarize yourself with some of the materials that the state has provided, and also to think about, so as you roll this out to your schools, and to your teachers, possibly your school improvement teams, how might you use those materials? So we'll be spending some time kind of experiencing those as well today. As I mentioned before, this session is being recorded, so I am going to have to switch back and forth between devices several times today because I have a video that I want to show you, a couple of video clips, and also I want to show you the state school improvement site, and I can't do that using using the Swivl here. So I will go back and forth between those, but just know that this is being recorded, and we'll put it on our school improvement site so that if you would like to use parts of it for the training that you do with your school improvement teams or your school, so on, that will be available to you. So the first thing that I'm going to do is to show you where those are, or these materials that you have in front of you are available. So if you go to michigan.gov/school improvement, you'll come to this page. Okay. And as you scroll down, you will see about maybe two-thirds of the way down or so, you'll see the Michigan School Improvement Framework. Okay. Which will lead you to this page. And all the materials that we'll be using today, except for the large sheets, are available on this website. So the 2.0 documents, the overview documents, the systems review, as well as the strategy cards that we'll be using for an activity later on. We'll also be spending some time today experiencing and talking about a couple courses that are available on LearnPort. Okay, a couple interactive courses that are available there. And you can use those as courses, or you can simply use the video clips. You can use those as individual courses or use the video clips as part of your professional learning with your school improvement teams, your district improvement teams, and so on. And those are available here. Okay, and like I say, we'll be experiencing one of those this morning and talking about the other two. So those are also available here, as well as instructions for using those and how to access them. Okay. So any questions about where these materials are available? As I said, everything you have in front of you will be there except for those large sheets. And we will post those large sheets on our Kent ISD school improvement site, which is SI for school improvement.kentisd.org. So we'll be putting those large sheets there as well. It'll be si.kentisd.org. In fact, let me just write that up here right now. And then there's a section there on the left side called School Improvement Process. But otherwise, it's for the state side, it's just michigan.gov/school improvement. And then you'll see this in the middle of the page. Click on that, and that's where all these materials are available. All right, so over the last number of years, and some of you may have already been part of this, a couple of years ago, the state did kind of a listening tour going around to the various ISDs and other organizations to talk about the entire school improvement process in Michigan. And that included the school improvement frameworks. Again, you're familiar with those as the EDYES 40 and 90 or the District 19. And some of the things that the state heard around those was that, number one, there are too many of them, even with just the 40. That many times what was in the school framework were things that the school didn't control. It was up to the district, okay? But schools were still asked to rate themselves on them, okay? And so one of the things that the state did in terms of re-looking at this and coming up with a 2.0 process is that, or the 2.0 frameworks, I should say, is that you will have very clearly defined a school framework and a very clearly defined district framework. Okay? But they are two, they work very much hand in glove, and we'll talk about how they do that. Okay? But that was one thing that the state did. Obviously, also, part of the streamlining was to reduce the number, okay, because we found a lot of repetitiveness, a lot of redundancy with the old framework. And so we are now in the school, we're down to 26 indicators, A through Z. How convenient. And we are down to 10 at the district level. Okay. Yes?
Will single building districts still rate both the buildings?
Yes, they will. Okay. So we've really streamlined the numbers, and again, I hope you'll see as we work with these, you will see that they work very well together. Okay. One of the intents of doing this was not only to make it simpler, but over the last years, you're probably aware that we've really emphasized that continuous improvement process. Okay? Getting away from that once-a-year event of developing the school or district improvement plans, and really make this part of an ongoing process that really drives our work continuously. Okay? And the intent is to make the framework, as part of the process data that we collect, part of that in an ongoing way as well. So that you will still be asked to go in and to rate yourselves as part of now called the School Systems Review, the SSR, or the District Systems Review, the DSR. And in fact, we're also right now looking at the school data profile, the school data analysis process, which has become kind of a cumbersome document as well. One of the pieces that I've always thought is, we do the school process work earlier than we do all the other work. And one of the problems with that, and it's because, of course, with the way that the dates are set up, the due dates are set up, but the idea is that when we look at the other forms of data, including the process data, we want to ask ourselves, so how does our success or our gaps in our processes impact student achievement? And as we look at the four kinds of data, that's what drives, that's kind of the driving question. So how do those other three forms of data, including the process, the demographic, and the perception data, how do what we find in there impact student achievement? Okay? The idea being that if we have some gaps, in this case in our processes, and if we address those, then that should impact student achievement in a positive way. However, because of when the due dates are set, we tend to look at the process data and set it aside, and then when it comes to doing the other kind of analysis, we kind of forget about that process data because we've done that, we've sent that in, and now we're looking at the demographic, we're looking at the perception, and we kind of maybe focus on those in addition to the achievement. So what the state is looking at doing in terms of streamlining that school data analysis piece is putting some of the analysis questions around the process data, incorporating that into the school data analysis, so it really is one complete package. When we're analyzing data, we're analyzing all three kinds of data and looking at its impact on student achievement. Okay? We'll see how far we get with that process this year, but the intent is that that actually will happen this year. Okay? So just kind of a heads up on that streamlining process is also taking place. It's not likely that due dates will change this year, but we're also looking at that possibility of changing up some of the due dates so that it falls more in line when it seems naturally to do the process. Okay? Now, right now, you know, school improvement plans are due in due September 1. District plans are due before that, but I'm sure that in most of our districts, school plans are due probably before administrators leave for the summer, so that that can all feed into the district plan. So what they're talking about doing, and again, this is a legislated timeline right now, so unless the legislature changed it, it's going to stay the same, but at least recommending some earlier timelines. So tightening up all the timelines with when these documents are due, but for now, we're still sticking with the old timelines, okay? And so these will be due in March, process rubrics. Okay. So there are some documents that you have that accompany this, the state has put out. You have the overview document. You have the systems review, or the district, either for the school or the district. You have a process guide, and then there will be a glossary. I didn't print out the glossary, but all those tools, again, are available for your use. Okay? So just know that, and actually we're in the process of, and like I say, of producing a few more materials, as well as the videos now are available for you as well. And so we'll be walking through each of those today. Okay? Another thing that kind of changed with this, but I kind of alluded to, is that research lately has really led us into a lot of conversation about systems and how we work together as a system. So we'd like to spend the next few minutes or so just talking about, so what is a system? What do we mean by a system? And how is that important to schools and districts? How does that impact our work? So to kind of jumpstart that conversation, I'd like to have you take a look at this video. So what does this tell you about systems? So I'd like to have you have a conversation at your table. So what did you see in that video that had to do with systems?
Never seen that one before, though. Interesting.
It's a good one.
It always bugged me that they had 3 batteries, because I don't think that station wagon actually has 3 batteries. So I was thinking as it went along, wow, that's cool, they took the car all the way apart. They snuck extra 12 volts.
Yeah.
In 20 seconds, you can bring your conversation to a stopping point, please. And thank you for bringing your conversations to a close. Okay, so where did you see systems at work in there, or things related to systems?
We said many people working together, lots of communication, trial and error.
Okay.
Yeah, that wasn't done by 2 people in an afternoon.
Supposedly the actual video was taken in one shot there. It wasn't spliced together. That's what. So, what else about a system? So it took a lot of people working together to make that happen.
One vision.
Okay, a vision. The same vision for the end in mind, right?
And no step is more or less important than the other. Everybody has to do the right part.
Okay. And because if one of those didn't work, and I didn't count how many different little components there were, but if one component doesn't work, what does that do to the process? Waylays the entire process, doesn't it? Okay. So as you think about schools and districts, or school and district improvement, how is that also like a system?
Lots of trial and error.
All right. Say more about that. Trial and error in terms of.
Well, you're implementing new things, or you're analyzing data, you're sort of looking, and then you have to make readjustments, and so you go back because it didn't work the way you thought it was going to work.
Okay.
And looking ahead to your end product. You have to look ahead to build a plan.
So in terms of either the district or the school plan, so you've got to have a common end in mind. All right.
Lots of people need to be doing their part, and lots of different stakeholders involved in the whole system.
And if they don't,
Not gonna work.
Kind of mess things up a little bit, or take you off track.
Okay.
If you have certain parts that aren't contributing or doing their part.
so the system's going to kind of fall apart then, right? If not everybody's pulling their own weight. How else? How else do schools and districts or the improvement process work as a system? So when you think about what schools do and what districts do, in what way, Evan?
A lot of the same components, certain timelines, there's some, as you mentioned, some steps there.
Okay? In the ideal world of school and district improvement, how would we do this work? Including even as we're writing our plans, ideally, should we do this work?
It's not a piece of paper that you write it on, it's not what you put in the spreadsheet, that you're working collaboratively on to take action on what you're saying, and that's that whole system.
Mhm.
Because we're about improving what we do in our business for our students, for our people, for our community. So it has to be a process that involves our, stakeholders, and that we look at the data to see if it is actually improving.
So when the district writes its improvement plan, what does it need to keep in mind? Okay. So we, and we'll come back to that in just a minute. So we as a state school improvement team were challenged to come up with some kind of a diagram, some kind of a graphic that represented this systems thinking piece. And so we had a number of groups doing this, and when we kind of brought it all back together, we kind of came up with, we synthesized it to this, okay? So we need to have a common vision, and in the world of school improvement, in the world of district improvement, our common vision has to be our student success, okay? We have a vehicle for getting us there. We have many vehicles, but one of the primary vehicles is our strategic plan and or our school improvement plan, okay? So we have on our school improvement teams, as well as our teams across entire schools and districts in terms of implementation, we have a leader and we have our team, and of course we talk about, do we have the right people on the bus? Okay? And in order to determine whether we have the right people on the bus, we need to gather data on a really regular basis. So data forms our wheels. It's what drives us. Okay? We have our 4 kinds of data represented by the 4 wheels here. Our school improvement process, at least in that way of thinking, is the fuel that kind of drives us. That gather, that study, the plan, and the do is a continuous process. We're continually gathering data, whether it's formative or summative. We're continually analyzing that. We're continually adjusting what we're doing, and then going and implementing that, gathering new data, and going through that process on a repetitive basis, aren't we? And then finally, we have kind of our school improvement teams, or our accreditation teams, depending what you want to call them, to kind of guide that process, to keep eyes on that process, and to make sure that if we need adjustments, they're kinds of the team that helps guide that process. So if you think of, again, education, we're really a system of systems. Okay? So from our view at the ISD, we are one part of the system because we service all the districts, and we try to, in our services, gather from the district plans and from the schools what you have in your plans so that we know what kind of services you need. And in fact, we actually ran reports of the strategies and activities from all the schools and all the districts across the county, and tried to look for some themes across that as we looked at the services we provide, the professional development that we provide, and so on. So all of you are part of our system. Okay? Oops. Okay. Andrew, one thing that doesn't work is I'm going to have to switch over to this one a minute because it doesn't allow us to proceed through the...
Is that slide available on the website at all?
I will put the... I'll put it there. I'll put the PowerPoint there. Yep.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay.
That's a good one to show the SIP.
So we, as the ISD, as I said, serves the districts. Each of you in the district role service your schools. And so as you're looking at what your work is at the district, you're looking at all your schools. And in fact, when you're writing your plan, you're also looking at the needs of your schools, and those funnel up into your district plan. Okay? Then in each of our schools, obviously we have classrooms, and so as schools are writing their school plans, they look at what the data from each of the individual grade levels, from the classrooms and so on, and pull that into a school improvement plan. Certainly when our schools, our classrooms are looking at what they need to do, our classroom teachers and so on, they're looking at the data around the individual students. Okay? So when we're talking about system, we're talking about this grouping or the system of systems. Okay? So lots of things to keep in mind, and in fact, if we don't have coherency across all of these systems, then there's a chance that we're not going to be as effective and efficient as what we need to be in order to have high quality school improvement. Okay? What I'd like to have you do is to take out, for a minute, the overview documents. Okay? These two overview documents. And you'll notice that these are organized in the same way as what it was before. You notice that we have the strands, we have the standards, and what we've done is the old plan, the old framework had strands and standards as well. You notice that what we've done is we've gone from 5 strands to 4. As you look at the ones that are there, can you remember from what we had before what's missing? What strand is no longer there? Can you remember? There used to be a data strand. Okay? And what we've done is we've pulled that data strand out as a singular strand because data is involved in everything. Okay? So data is embedded in all of these. Again, you can see that we have the indicators. And for each one of the indicators, we have a guiding question. What I'd like to have you do is to lay the school guiding questions next to the district guiding questions. And see what you notice about the wording of the district guiding questions compared to the wording of the school guiding questions. In other words, how do they fit together?